Hi, Elijah.
Hello.
How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. I hear you want to ask me some questions about Watergate. Okay, great.
My first question is, what was your experience with Nixon and Watergate?
Well, my experience, I guess, was watching it I can remember during the summers, watching it, or during this one particular summer, and having, I think his name was Sam Nunn, being the head of the Watergate hearings. And kind of each person who was sworn in to tell the truth added a little more to this debacle and to this whole situation. And so it was amazing that how many people lied about this and what happened and how different people in Nixon's office lied. There was a Mr. Ehrlichman and Mr. Haldeman who kind of felt that they were above the law. And so it was interesting to hear what exactly they did and all the laws that they broke. And then on one side, there was the special, he was a counsel, a lawyer for the office of presidency, and his name was Dean, and his wife was always there with him, and she wore her hair in the tightest bun, and she was absolutely gorgeous. So here you're supposed to hear about all this Watergate, and all I could do is look at her bun. Okay, go to the next.
My second question is, how did everyone see Nixon before the scandal?
I think everybody saw him as the person who ended the Vietnam War. And so I think they saw him in a personal light. He was never particularly popular with the crowds. He kind of had a kind of a serious look, a scowl, I remember. And so, you know, he didn't kind of have the personality that you would hope. But you felt with him ending the war, this was going to be a positive presidency.
For my third question, did people lose trust in the government when the scandal happened?
Definitely. They didn't want to because it was most of, our lifetime, and there hadn't been anything, let's say World War II, and so people who are living at this time and young people such as myself, you didn't really hear of much scandal, and this was a huge scandal. And I think as it went on, more and more came out about it, so it was more something that you had to believe. So people at this point who would kind of go along with things, like my parents would kind of go along with what the news had to say, even though they were intelligent individuals, they kind of would just kind of go or believe what was said. And now all of a sudden, this was just destroyed, this respect.
My fourth question is, how do people change when they heard of this? Like, do people start acting different?
In what respect did they act different, do you think?
Like, do they stop respecting police people or government officials in general?
No, I wouldn't say they stopped respecting police or government officials, but they certainly questioned the office of presidency, which was never questioned before. You may question senators and House of Representatives, and certainly during the civil rights movement, you questioned the police, but the office of president was never really questioned, so that was a big deal.
My fifth question is, did the scandal affect the Cold War?
That's a really good question, because the Cold War, Nixon was big in the Cold War because he had a lot to do with Gorbachev, I think, if I remember correctly. So, and that's, of course, who the Cold War was with. Did it affect it? I think what it did is it took the Cold War and the problems with the Cold War and maybe put them in the background, because now this whole domestic turmoil was happening, and everything regarding what was happening at home, and people zeroed right in on this, on the Watergate scandal.
That's good. My sixth question is, was the Watergate scandal as bad as the Trump scandal?
I think the Watergate scandal, here's my view, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I think the Watergate scandal happened a while ago,
Mm-hmm.
in the 70s, I think. Was it 70s or 80s? When was it,
I think it was
70s. So I remember that. I remember sitting there. I remember watching it. I remember talking about it with my family. And I remember talking about it afterward. I don't think I'll ever mention Trump's scandal, because Trump's scandal was basically of a sexual nature, you know, and that and it's also of the Russian. And so, and you don't know what to believe now. There's been so much time between the Watergate scandal and this that you kind of have lost respect for a lot of it.
Can you put this in the charger?
Yep.
Thank you.
My seventh question is, did the media make the second scandal more serious than it really was, or did they just leave it as it was?
I think at this time, Elijah, there weren't as many outlets of news. I think you had main channels like Channel 4 and Channel 5 and Channel 7 and Channel 2, which was PBS. So you had very few outlets of news. So they were competing against very few. And also, you know now how you have, what do they call it, when you can read, they're not blurbs or web pages and websites and things like that.
You're talking about articles?
Well, I'm talking more about what you can read through the internet and things like that. It's more of people's personal opinions, where the news then really did cite the facts. But I think with something like Watergate, it really tackled it and talked about it a lot and kept it in the news a lot. But it was pretty factual, I think, of what happened.
My eighth question is, when Nixon resigned, were people happy, sad, or really didn't care?
Oh, I think there was a lot of emotion. I think people were sad because the office of presidency was on a different avenue now. It was thought of differently. You didn't have the same amount of respect. It kind of brought the office down. And not like there hadn't been other scandals in the past, but for me, certainly, this scandal really shocked me that, you know, this office could be disrespected like this. And also, people didn't really like Nixon, so they really didn't care about him, but they cared about what he did and how he took advantage of the office of presidency.
For my ninth question is, did people get into arguments about this scandal? Like, was he in the right or wrong?
Oh, I think people did get into arguments. I think people tried to defend him, but not as many. I don't recall being that many people defending him, or even the news channels defending him. Like now, I think there's Fox that defends President Trump. There wasn't that when this happened. It was like just put the facts out there, and when the facts went out there, it was hard to defend them.
Yeah. For my last question is, did it affect your personal life? What they talked about in school?
Well, certainly, you know, it affected a personal life in that you were embarrassed by this scandal. You were embarrassed, you know, being part of the world, and, you know, you now have become another scandal on the mark of the world in all the European countries and Asian countries and things like that. So did they think less of us? Probably. And did it bother me personally? No, but I consider myself a strong American, and I was embarrassed by what happened.
Well, thank you for all the information you just told me.
Sure. And if you have any other questions, just let me know, okay?
Okay.
Take care.
You too.